On the Grow Mouse channel, and we're talking LEDs this morning. I've got a co-producer with me, a gentleman named Wookie Kush. Welcome, Wookie.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Well, so what we're going to do today, first off, I have to find the video and pause it. Sorry, guys. Welcome to the show today, guys. Welcome, chat room. And to the folks that are going to see this not live, I'm sorry. I feel for you. I gave you an hour notice. I'm not prepared to, commit to a specific stream day or stream time so that everybody knows about it a week in advance. Saturday mornings are my jam. That's when I get my thinking done, my building done, and that's when I generally feel motivated to do things. So if you're frustrated with me and you didn't know about the live stream and you wish you were here live, but you're not, check in on Saturday mornings. That'll be a good time to come and hang out with us. And yeah, so there you go. There'll be more of them, maybe like an every other Saturday thing, but nothing official, so yeah. So what we're going to be talking about today is we're going to be talking about the most common question I get on a daily basis, multiple times a day on Instagram and, comments in YouTube, which is like, I watch some of your videos, but I still don't know how much LED I need for my space or whatever. So Wookie, like, you just got specced out with the light. How did you decide, or did someone tell you how many watts to do, to go with? Cause you had some idea before you started talking with me, like you're talking with Blunt Thumb and some other guys, right? About how many.
There's this guy I watch on YouTube named Grow Mouse. And I heard him say one day, that you're looking for about, I believe it was 40 watts per square foot, somewhere in that region, 35, 40. So that's kind of what I was shooting for.
Yeah. And so that's kind of what I say, because, when you get the same question over 100 times a month, you try to boil it down to the simplest way that people can understand it, which is watts. And we did a whole GrowTube roundtable 2 weeks ago, before Vegas, where we talked about lighting, we talked about metrics, and watts per square foot was, the standard. It was the go-to metric because that was the common language with HID growers, metal halide, HPS. But wattage really as a term is, I don't want to say it's meaningless. I feel like it's pretty meaningless, but it has some value because it's a baseline. It's your wattage is your input. It's what you're pulling from the wall. It's your input. It's your starting point. But there's a huge gap between wattage in and photons out. And in the middle is a lot of calculations based on what kind of lighting and stuff that you have. So we're going to go into the metrics. We're going to talk about a couple things as it relates to general lighting. And then we'll go right into the LED recommendations. So Wookie, your job as the co-producer is, as I talk, I get into this kind of tunnel vision where I lose track of what's happening in chat. So first off, let's welcome the chat room. We'll see some common faces in here. Dirtman Dan, Canisaur Farms, Norwegian Frog, Free the Frog. Papa G, Stealth Trees, Captain Kindbud, thanks for coming out. Hattie Hash Browns, welcome. Shout out. Thanks for coming. Congratulations on your move, and we sincerely hope that you get feeling better. What do we say? Did we say hi, Root, already? Loki's in the house. Dirtman Dan's in the house. Actually, do you have the link, Wookie? I'd like to delegate that to you as well to send the link out to folks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so we'll do that. We'll start inviting some people. So if you're watching this live, guys, and you're in the chat room, Wookie and I, we want to invite you into the live stream with us. And we'll probably take people one or two at a time. And the way we're going to start this conversation is we're going to lay down some metrics. And like Wookie was talking about, watts per square foot, par watts per square foot, micromoles, etc. We'll lay down those metrics, and we're going to start small. We're going to start. I don't know if anybody's. Well, hell, you know what? If you're a cabinet grower, or you're a computer case grower, or college dorm room grower, holler at us in the chat. All you need to come into the live stream is earbuds, so that we don't have to hear our voice back, in a microphone. You don't need a webcam or anything. Make sure you're in a quiet room, away from the kids and away from the dog and the exhaust fan. But we're going to invite some folks in, and we're going to talk to some real live people, and we're just going to do free consulting, basically help them figure out what they need for their space. So we'll start small, we'll go big. We'll hope to end up at 4x4 coverage space. hopefully pretty quick within the first hour of the show. And what I'll do is I'll go back through after the live stream is over for the playback, guys, and I'll in the description of this video you'll see little timestamps like at 12 minutes we talked about this, 30 minutes. So when you're coming in checking out this video, you don't have to sit through an hour-long video of two nerds talking and smoking and chilling to get to the information that you need. So Wookie's got the link. Let's go ahead and throw an invite out to Loki if he would like to come in. You know, we had him last week, and I think everybody really enjoyed hearing his voice. And he's got a lot of experience with space and LED. So let's see, Wookie. Anybody in chat? Let's get some people lined up. You know, we can start to think about bringing those folks in, and even if you guys are looking at buying a light, you know, like, hey, should I buy, you know, this Spectrum King? Should I buy this Fluent? Should I buy this PLC? Should I buy this? We're happy to talk a little bit about that. So yeah, okay. So before we get into all that, metrics. Watts per square foot is great if you're doing HPS. You know, we talked about it for 2 hours, so I don't want to go too much into it. Most people are doing 40, 50, 60 watts a square foot of HPS in their room. But when you get into LED, it becomes a little bit more of a challenge because watts per square foot, it doesn't translate to the same amount of photons depending on what LEDs you're using. So for something like like a Mars Hydro or a an Epistar based fixture, you're probably going to need almost as many watts per square foot as you would for HPS, 50, 60 watts to really do the job. But when you get into chip on board LEDs and you get into the more efficient discrete packages like the mid powers, like the quantum boards, the Cree XPG3s, the Osrams, other discrete diodes, there's different metrics there too. And it all stems from two things: efficiency, efficacy. They're two separate words that mean two different things. Most people use them kind of interchangeably. How efficient is it? What's the efficacy? Like, that's all kind of grouped in efficiency. But if you want to get technical, efficiency is a unitless ratio. So when you divide two things that have the same units and the units cancel out, it becomes unitless. It becomes a ratio. So when we talk about efficiency, or when the industry talks about efficiency, we're referring to wall plate efficiency. You plug something into the wall, you've got watts, and then you've got how much energy is converting to heat and how much energy is converting to photons. And that's a ratio. So when we say it's 50% efficient, that's what we're saying. 50% of your juice goes to heat, 50% of your juice goes to photons. But that doesn't necessarily mean that those photons are all in the par range, 400 to 700. There could be some IR coming out. There could be some UV coming out. And inside of that range of 400, 700, it could be 70% wall plate efficient, but be all green light or something like that. So it doesn't really tell yourself. Welcome, Loki. I'm getting a little feedback off you. Can you mute for just a sec? And then we'll talk to you in a sec.
I'll fix it, sorry.
All right. So that's wall plate efficiency. When we're talking about efficacy, we're talking about micromoles of photons per joule of energy, which is typically in grow lights and horticultural lights, we're talking about micromoles of photons in the par range. So it's a little bit better metric. And I think that this can be a little bit confusing to people. So I have my whiteboard out. And when you hear a term like joules or micromoles or something like that, it's like, man, I remember that from high school. I remember the science teacher or the physics teacher talking about that. But it's not like, I don't really know it like the back of my hand. So we talked about it a little bit, but like the joule, Jesus Christ. Hey, live show. Hey, we're going live with the dry raise markers. A joule, J is the symbol, capital J, and it stands for, or a joule is a unit of measurement for energy, and a watt is equal to a joule per second, right? So a watt is a rate of consumption. This is the energy being consumed here. So when you see the term micromole per joule, or you see the term what is it? umol per watt. Should I just space there? I space there. You see two separate terms. You see micromole per joule, and then you see, oh yeah, you see ppf per watt, right? You see these terms kind of used interchangeably. Because a watt is a joule per second, when you do the math on this, a ppf per watt works out to be a joule per a micromole per joule, because the seconds cancel out. That was a freaking horrible explanation. Anyway, so a micromole per joule is how much is this is your yield. How many photons per joule of energy consumed from the wall? We've covered it over and over. That was bad. Anyway, welcome Loki. Welcome to the stream, man. Thanks for stopping in. We appreciate it. Definitely happy to have you on again and talk to you about these grow lights and spaces.
For sure. I love the tech talk.
Cool,
I'm here, like everyone else, just learning all the information you got spewing out.
Well, we're gonna lay it out together. So Loki, you run a number of different spaces, you know, in your basement or grow space. Yeah.
Basement, yeah.
How many square feet of grow space do you know? Have you calculated?
I've never calculated. So I have one room that is 6 by 10. I have another room that's 4 by 8, and I have another room that's just a room. I just move things around as I feel. Okay. I never really measured it.
Cool. Sounds good, man. And
I'm
you have
running
any
a bunch
idea?
of those lights you spoke about, though.
Yeah. Do you have any idea how much total juice you're pulling?
I can check. I don't know right off the head. Maybe about 3,000 watts max.
Okay. 30,000 pp. Dude, I totally had this worked out in my head, and I screwed up the explanation of why a micromole per joule and a ppf per watt. Okay. You know what? It's pride at this point. We're going back through this. Okay. Micromole per joule efficacy, ppf per watt is okay, here we go. Can we see this? Okay. A ppf per watt is a metric that's the same because this means micromoles per second. Okay. And a watt is a joule per second. Okay. And when you take two fractions and divide them by each other, when you take two fractions and divide them by each other, you invert the denominator, so it becomes seconds over joules, right? That's how you divide fractions. You divide fractions by multiplying them and flipping the denominator. So seconds cancel, okay? And then you become micromole per joule. So I know this is horrible handwriting. Micromole per joule, ppf per watt is a micromole per second over a joule per second. And when you do the math, the seconds cancel and you have a micromole per joule again. Okay, there we go. I'm sorry. Wake and bake and Saturday morning and coffee has not helped my brain function. So are you guys with me? Are you guys with me?
We're with you, bro.
That's why it's the same. Green
Whenever
Gene,
you're ready for a couple questions, I got them lined up.
Okay, great. Yeah, Wookie, that's what I want you to do. I'll try to leave more pauses when I go on my monologues so that you just jump in there. You just jump in there with the questions. And we sent the link out to Green Gene. Gene, I know you play golf and do a lot of stuff with your wife and stuff in the morning. So you got the link. Hop in if you want. And if you're too busy, no worries, my bro. So what's going on in chat?
Okay, couple questions, some related to what you were just talking about, some not. But the first one comes from Dazed and Blazed. Grow Mouse, what's the real difference between those quantum boards versus PCB boards?
Oh, yeah, I saw this question somewhere. It came through somewhere. PCB just stands for printed circuit board. And they're typically, there's three types. There's the fiber boards, which aren't really applicable to us. They're like a fiberglass material. It's more for stuff like your cell phone or your Arduinos or whatever. The stuff we're talking about is typically an aluminum core printed circuit board. So it's aluminum with a copper sheet on top, and there's a dielectric layer under there. And you can mount all kinds of components on it, transistors, LEDs, whatever. There are copper ones, like Cutter Electronics sells a lot of copper base. So the whole board is copper, right? So it's a little bit lower thermal resistivity, gets heat into the heatsink better. So the long answer to the short question is a quantum board is a PCB. And, basically a PCB is just a substrate. It's basically a board that a computer mounts everything to and solders it all nice and clean, so you don't have like a spaghetti factory of wiring connecting everything. All it is a wiring board. So a quantum board is a PCB. They're one and the same, and there are thousands of different types of printed circuit boards with all kinds of components on them.
Badass. Next question's from Kenneth Young. He says, always talking about replacing HIDs with LEDs. Too bright for cuttings. Need help, please. Can you give it a couple minutes on that subject?
Okay, no, that fits really well with the conversation, because it doesn't get much smaller than your nursery space for your cuttings and stuff like that. For cuttings, I'll say this: I don't technically really use any T5, but I do have a 2-foot 2-bulb T5 array over here. T5 bulbs excel at cuttings, seedlings. It's the go-to choice for many growers with either small grows or nurseries, because the light energy coming out of a T5 bulb is very spread out and it's very diffuse. In addition to being a 4-foot, bulb or whatever, light is emitted 360 degrees around the bulb and then reflected, making it even more diffuse. Now, unfortunately, they're not very electrically efficient, nor do they have a very high efficacy. You pull a lot of juice and you don't get out many photons. If you look back to my rapid LED 50-watt kit video that I did, I showed and proved that like 47 watts of Cree XML, a 3-year-old diode, is equivalent to actually slightly greater than 108 watts of T5. So you can get a lot more photons for a lot less watts in your nursery, in your clone dome with LEDs, but there's this je ne sais quoi factor with T5s, that spread out nice, even light. What was the original question?
Hang on. Here it is. He's just saying, you're always talking about replacing HIDs with LEDs, but he feels that LEDs are too bright for cuttings, so he wanted help with that.
Okay, yeah. LEDs can be too bright for cuttings. A cutting, in my experience with my Apogee par meter, I like to route my cuttings under between 60 micromoles per second to 90 micromoles per second. And if you don't have a par meter, what that means is it's about 20 to 25 watts of Cree XML2 over a 40-inch space. So, a typical clone dome is 10 inches by 20 inches, right, with the hood. You stack 2 of those long ways like you would under a 4-foot T5 strip. If you put about 25 watts to 30 watts of XML2 or Cree XPG 3 or whatever, it will be diffuse enough. It'll be under that 80 micromole sort of maximum, and your clones won't like burn up and singe up. You know how the clones root great for a week, and then they start getting as they root, they start getting those yellow crusty tips and stuff like that, or they'll bleach from the light. So that'd be my answer. Either drop the total wattage of the LED strip, or just use more of them and run them really soft at like 500, maybe 700 milliamps. So, for example, the Cree XML2 it goes up to like 2,800 milliamps, so almost 3 amps, and I'm running them at 700 milliamps. I'm running them at 25% of their maximum capacity. Makes them more efficient, makes them real soft and diffuse, almost like a T5 in terms of how diffuse it is. So yeah, I think that over adequately answers the question. Loki, what do you clone under? Do you use LED to take your cuttings, or do you still have some T5s hanging around your shop?
I've never used a T5. So I just use my LEDs and just dim them down. Worst case scenario, just lift the light up a little bit before I do anything too technical. Right on.
And so you're using a full-blown fixture, like you're using a full-blown
yeah, I have a cob bar set up over my clones. I'm using 8 cobs at 320 watts, 1050 milliamps.
Okay. And you don't dim it, you just lift it up?
Yeah, I never even hooked up a dimmer. It stays at one height. I don't move it.
Gotcha.
That space is pretty much like a 4-foot height, so I can't move too much.
Okay. And we've seen the HPS growers do that before. They'll put 1,000 watt and peg it up at the ceiling, 8 feet tall or whatever, and then they'll just stick a clone dome on the floor.
When I was growing in HPS, I would just put my clones on the corner somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great strategy. And in fact, I do that too. Like sometimes I have a 400 watt CXA light in my little nursery area. And sometimes I don't even plug in my XML. If there's space in the tray, 4x6 tray, I'll stick it in the corner and they root like a champ. No problem. They just don't need that much light. I mean, we're giving our plants 700, 800, 1200 micromoles in flower, and to root, they only need 60 micromoles. You know, so it's like 5% of the total light you would use to flower to clone. Everybody knows clones don't need a lot of light, but yeah, 60, 70 micromoles is my preference. So, okay, back into the chat. Wookie, what do we got going on?
Oh, I got a ton of them lined up for you here. Okay.
Anybody that wants to like come on and talk, people get really.
Yeah, I'm trying. Nobody's jumping at it yet. But if you guys want to come on the stream, either get a hold of me here in chat. We'll get you the link. Tag me if you can, so I can see it. Chat's scrolling pretty fast. So, but yeah, tag me in your questions, and if you want to come on, please tag me. We'll get you the link over.
Yeah, I'm looking for people that want to, not just to come on. I'm looking for people that like need help. They're sitting here on a Saturday morning. Hell, maybe they were even watching one of my videos and they saw I went live and they're like, oh, holy shit. Maybe this dude that hasn't answered my email or hadn't answered me on Instagram can actually help me figure out how many COBs do I need for my space, how many discrete diodes, whatever you need. So that's what we're looking for. People that are actively pursuing a build or actively looking to buy an LED. We're looking for those people that want to come on and seek some advice, and we're happy to help them. Or, we can help them here in the chat. So in terms of chat help, what do we got?
Okay, chat help, we got, this is a question that popped up real quick that I'm actually kind of curious about, that I wonder if you could touch on. It's from Nexus713, and he's asking, what about the LED T5s for clones? Are they more efficient than regular T5s?
Great question. When we get into these retrofit replacement LED T5 bulbs, it's the same geometry, long, slender T5. It just has LEDs in it instead. And it consumes approximately the same wattage because, there's a certain input from the T5 ballast, So I've looked at them a lot. And when we talk about these, we actually have to go back into talking about lumens per watt because we just don't have the agricultural data from Philips or Sylvania or whoever's selling these bulbs at either Home Depot or Lowe's, or there's horticultural websites like grow supply shops online that sell them, but they don't give you micromoles per joule, they don't give you wall plate efficiency, they give you lumens per watt. So if we look at T5s in terms of lumens per watt, I'd have to actually look up exactly what they're getting, but let's start at it from the angle of a good LED. A good LED, a badass LED, like the top of the top, 195 to 200 lumens per watt, theoretical, maybe not theoretical maximum, but like if you're getting 200 lumens per watt, you're crushing it, dude. Like you're freaking next level shit. 150, 160 lumens per watt. It's about what a lot of us are getting, Loki, me, Wookie, somewhere in that, maybe 140, 150, 160 lumens per watt, right in that zone. A lot of these T5 LED replacement bulbs I've seen them as low as like 80, 90, 100 lumens per watt. So it's pretty low. If you just kind of compare the ratios, would you rather get 90 or 100 lumens per watt, or would you rather get 150 or 180 lumens per watt? So, they're more than half as efficient. They're about 60% as efficient as the LEDs that we're using, Let's see. I'm just looking up a website. I just don't know how many lumens per watt a standard T5 is. Do you guys know, or does anyone in chat know? I'd like to compare it back to the standard fluorescent application, but let's see. Anyway, we'll move on. We'll come back to that. What's next, Wookie?
All right, next question here. Let's see. So here's kind of specific on the sizing, their room up. But Silver Squirrel Farms asks, how many CXB 3590s run at 1400 milliamps would you recommend for a 3x9 foot room?
3x9. Okay. So when the question comes in, how many COBs do I need? Blah 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 blah. At first, when I was getting a couple messages a day or whatever, it was easy to explain to someone that you know, this person, who is the question asker?
That was from Silver Squirrel Farms.
Oh, Silver Squirrel, welcome, and thanks for watching the chat, or watching the stream. When I first got into this, I would try to educate people and be like, people would say, how many cobs do I need? And I would answer them like, well, cobs isn't like a good metric to answer, because we need to know the voltage of the cob. We need to know the current you're driving them at. You know, we need to know some factors to figure out the wattage so we can work backwards and figure out micromoles per joule, you know, all that good stuff. But when he asks a question, a 36 volt cob at 1400 milliamps, that's easy math. That's kind of the standard. So now I'm just like, when people say, how many cobs do I need? I assume they're talking about a 50 watt setup, which is like a 3590 Cree run at 1400 milliamps, 50 watts. So for a 3x9 space, I would definitely do 3 cobs per bar. I like the modular, you know, like, like I've built and like PLC does with their CXP 250, you know, if you do individual bars, like you have, Wookie, as well, it allows you the ability to spread them out on one axis. You know, you have modularity, and you can adjust your spread. So as long you're lengthwise, as long as you get your spacing of your cobs widthwise correct, then you're good. So for a 3-foot space, I would probably do 10-inch spacing, 3 cobs per bar. So it'd be cob, 10 inches, cob. That's about a 20-inch spacing on center between the first and the third cob. And then, you know, you could put that on like 24-inch bars. And you would do, let me see. I need my calculator real quick. Yeah, you'd need somewhere between 1200 watts and 1500 watts. Okay, I'm simplifying that, which ends up being, yeah, you need somewhere between like 24 and 27 cobs, maybe. 24 would probably be a good starting point, because it's divisible by 6. And the newest kind of biggest driver, the HLG 320 C1400, will run 6 of the cobs that you're talking about, 6 36 volt cobs at 1400 milliamps, and give you about that 300 watts, you know, per driver. So that'd be 4 of those setups. So 24 cobs, 4 HLG 320 1400 milliamps, and that'll put you right in that zone in terms of watts per square foot. And the only reason I'm going back to using watts per square foot is just for ease of explanation. What it ends up working out to is something like 20 par watts per square foot, which is when you just take the total wattage pulled from the wall, and you multiply that by the wall plate efficiency of the LED, and it gives you par watts, like how many watts of photons in the par range are contributing to photosynthesis per watt. So yeah, I like about 20 par watts, you know, per square foot, which is, you know, about 50 watts per square foot, or I'm sorry, about 40 watts per square foot on the system level when you're doing those kind of calculations. Whew. Okay. What's next?
All right. See if I got another good one here on the subject.
I got a question from somebody. Taylor Borden. She said, I don't know. They said, what's your opinion on LED strips versus quantum boards with the same chip? I've seen the strips from what fairly low cost on Alibaba.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's a good one. Quantum boards versus just standard LED strips. An LED strip, you know, there's tons of what I in the industry would call a linear LED strip. It's a printed circuit board that's got some LEDs on it. And there can be a big difference between like an Alibaba strip that says 100% authentic Cree chips on this PCB, right? Sure, they could be a Cree, they could be an XTE, or they could be an XPE or an XPG. They could be a bunch of different models. And inside of that model, they could be a series of different bins. With cobs, it's a little easier because usually there's like 3 or 4 bins per color. So it's like, okay, you got the best, the middle, and the worst. with a lot of the discrete diodes, and when I say discrete diode, I just mean like, you know, the little itty bitty ones that are on these strips. With discretes, oftentimes there can be 5, 6, 7 bins, you know, so it's a little more confusing, and the bin codes are more confusing. So, you know, it's not just like 2 letters, it's like 4 letters and 2 numbers to get the bin code. Inside of that bin, there can be a massive range of output per watt. So discrete diode uses 1 watt and puts out 5 micromoles on a low bin. On a top bin, it could be pulling 1 watt, but putting out something like 12 micromoles, you know? So there could be like twice as much efficacy coming out of these low-end Alibaba chips that half the time, you know, a lot of the time they're factory rejects. So when a chip company like Samsung or Cree or Philips or whatever manufactures chips, and they manufacture tens of millions of chips, they put them through machine testing, and a bunch of them get rejected. They still work, but they're not inside that quality control standard. When those chips get rejected, oftentimes they're from factories in China that they just can't produce the chips that meet those quality standards at the same rate as we do here in America. So, you know, there's backdoor deals, or there's liquidation of chips that are still good. They still work, but they don't meet that quality standard. A lot of those chips end up on Alibaba boards. You can save a lot of money, you know, going with that, but they don't give you the bin codes on Alibaba. So you just don't, it's a real crapshoot. This is a very long-winded way of me saying, if you find a good deal on Alibaba, give it a shot. Unfortunately, you know, it takes forever to get. So if you buy a small test quantity, like 4 strips, and they end up working out great, it might be another 2 months before you can get the big order. But don't go whole hog, dude. Don't go buying, you know, $1,000 worth of shit off of Alibaba, and then you get it and you realize it's bottom bin, you know? Let me reconnect with the chat. Brandon DP, welcome. Green Screen Jesus, Jay. Urban Farmer, hey man, welcome, dude. What's going on? You're Urban, if you want to pop in and hang out, you're welcome too. Just tag Wookie in chat. We'll get you the link. Alaska Med, cheers, buddy. High Root Sun here. Hankel, what's going on? Newbie. What else we got coming in on the hotline there, Wookie?
All right, we'll go opposite spectrum here. We'll go with a small space. We got a 3x3 by 7 grow box. Is 390-watt quantum boards, 3,000 Kelvin, too much for my space? That's from Mr. Captain Kindbud. Shout out CKB.
Captain Kindbud. Cool. Yeah, welcome, Captain Kindbud. He said on Instagram he wanted to hang out. Yeah, I want to actually read that. I want to give him some tailored advice here. How far up is that? A while back.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so 3x3 space, 7 feet tall. And he wants to know how many quantum boards does he need to illuminate that space?
Well, he's asking specifically, is 3 90-watt quantum boards at 3,000 Kelvin too much for his space?
300 watts worth or 270 watts worth? No, it's not. For a 3x3 space, I think I would actually probably run 4, just because of the geometry of it, right? Like 3, when you're using an odd number of something like 3 or 5 or something, it can be a challenge to get even illumination in a square grow space. But I understand, due to financial constraints and stuff, like you can't just arbitrarily say, okay, I'll go 4. It's another $75 to $100 or whatever. So 3 quantum boards. Let's say they're running 90 watts. Let me hold on just a second. That's actually a little on the low side. That's going to be about 30 watts per square foot. That's going to be somewhere around maybe rough math 17 par watts per square foot. It's slightly low, actually. You could definitely pull off some great harvests in there. If I was doing it, I would run 4 of them. And when it comes to the topic of quantum boards, I'm going to go into this in more detail when people can actually get them. I just don't want to be doing hours and hours of content. People watch the content and then they can't get them. So they're pissed off, or they forget about the video and they have to watch it twice. When it comes to quantum boards, I've got a few of them here, and I've been playing around with them for about a month or 5 weeks now. And there's a lot of strategies you can go with quantum boards. But my preferred strategy is to use a low voltage, high amp driver and run them all in parallel. Okay. This allows you to take a build, like a 2-board build or a 3-board build or whatever, that fits in your budget here today, March 11th, 2017. It allows you to add more boards without increasing your wattage, but increasing your efficiency, right? So let's think of an example. So this was Captain Kindbud?
Correct.
Okay. So if he was to want to run a 250 watt setup today, he'd be looking at an HLG 240. And the one that puts out the closest voltage to the board, like you want to get about 115 volts out of the driver. So I think that's the 240-2100, which would blow the shit out of a single board, but it could power 2 boards in parallel because the current is split. So you take that 2100 milliamps, you split it into 2 boards, then you're running each board at 1050 and 1050. So you're still getting 250 watts, but it's coming out of 2 boards at a certain efficacy, a certain lumen per watt, micromole per joule, right? Then after your first harvest, you've got some money coming in, you want to make a more efficient setup, you add 2 more boards, all in parallel. You haven't increased your wattage, you're still at 250 watts, but now each board is getting 525, 525, 525 milliamps, and you've increased your efficiency. You bumped up your efficiency 8, 9, 10, 12%, whatever, depending on how many boards. So my advice for Captain Kindbud would be start with 2 or 3 boards on a 240 dash 2100, and then later add that 4th board. So the first grow might be, it might be good, but the second grow, when you have that 4th board, you're getting more photons per watt. You haven't increased your wattage, but you're getting a higher rate of photons per watt, and the spread is more even, and you can drop them lower because they're more diffuse, so you can get the light lower to the canopy. That would be recommendation number 1. Recommendation number 2 would be run everything, do the same thing I just said, but run it off an HLG 320-2800, which is going to run each board at 933 milliamps if you do 3. So now you're getting 320 watts out of 3 boards, and then you can upgrade to that 4th or that 5th or that 6th. I mean, I showed a build here. I had a single board kit that comes with the 90 watt driver, and it's plenty for 1 board, but I put 4 boards. As I got more money and was able to get more boards, I put 4 boards on that same 100 watt kit. It's still a 100 watt fixture, but now I'm running at 200 lumens per watt, or however many micromoles per joule it is on his chart. I don't have his chart pulled up right now. Okay. What else do we got? Actually, you know what? Let's throw it back over to Loki. Loki, do you have any advice for quantum board people? Like you did 2 builds for your friend, and what did you do?
I I did a quantum build for my friend and a quantum for myself, and the rest he wanted to do COBs because he didn't want to invest all his money into quantums and they weren't tested yet.
Well, that's smart. I mean, you can isn't it easy to get excited on the internet, Loki?
Very easy. I'm an impulse buyer, so I see new toys and I'm like, damn. And you were talking about the quantum boards. I'm kind of upset because I'm still waiting for parts, and it's like, damn, I got 3 boards sitting there, the drivers, and no heat sinks.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough for those guys over at Northern Girl Lights, because they could just pump out 500 boards with S5 bin, and it'd be awesome. It'd be as good as Fluence, as good as Nextlight, whatever. But they really want to get that S6 bin so that they can be a step above.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah, totally. And the heat sinks, man, like they have a couple heat sink designs, but I gave them some feedback. Some other people gave them some feedback and were like, hey, these heat sinks are good, but we could use a couple more holes here. Or mine's getting a little hot, so that, they increase the fin height, on version 2. So in the end, yes, it's going to suck for guys like you and me, Loki, that are impulse motherfuckers that want everything yesterday. But in the end, we'll be better for it. And I think that's just what patience does, right?
I wish I had some.
Dirtman Dan in the house. Welcome, Dan.
What's up, Dirt?
What's going on, guys?
What's up? Saturday morning. Happy morning to you, man.
Yeah, I couldn't get the plugin to work on Firefox, so I had to switch over to Internet Explorer. So I'm gonna
Yeah,
take a dab and calm myself down on that one.
I same thing happened to me. I've been using Chrome now because I keep getting these Google things that says Firefox isn't going to work. But
I'm using my phone and praying no one calls.
that's awesome. Yeah, I bumped up your audio as high as it will go in my little mixer here, Loki. Loki. Last time, some people were like, "Oh man, that Loki cat, he's cool as hell," but I couldn't hear him.
I got my headphones on. I'm sorry. I'm gonna fix it.
Oh,
If I'm low, just let me know and I'll adjust the headphones.
You're perfect now. You're perfect now. All right, back to Wookie. What do we got going on, my bro?
Okay, so we got the link out to a couple folks that are wanting to join in. I got a couple good little spaces they want to talk about. Mr. Growbeard and a couple other people. I don't want to say their names. Sometimes their personal emails have just their names on them. So, anyways, another quick question here. Veg Scrog Blue masks. I have a 10-foot by 10-foot room with a floating ceiling that goes up and down. How many crees should I need to cover the whole room? That's it. Yeah.
Okay, well, first, shout out to Veg Scrog Bloom. You know, he's deep in the DGC, Do Gross crew, Do Gross podcast. Shout out to those guys. We're talking about a 10 by 10 room.
Yeah, correct. 10 by 10 room with a floating ceiling. That sounds dope.
That does sound dope. That being able to adjust your height on the fly. So when you get into the bigger rooms, I'm assuming all 100 square feet is going to be grow space with no walkways. People send me questions like that a lot. Like they send me the whole room size, and I'm like, I don't know the configuration. So when I answer them based on like a 10 by 10 grow space. Hey, welcome, Harris. Hey, Wookie, let's make sure to let these guys know when they come in muted, because it really throws them off my train of thought.
Use your computer.
Yeah, let me hold on.
I don't know if I have the capability I don't think I have the ability to mute him, do I?
He's muted. Okay, thanks, buddy. We'll get with you in a second, Harris. So 10 by 10 room. When you get into a 10 by 10 room, it can get pretty expensive to run CXB 3590s at 1400 milliamps or 50 watts a cob, right? I mean, if you're looking for 40 watts a square foot, that's 4,000 watts, and that can be pretty expensive. So a lot of people with the bigger rooms are looking for a little more bang for the buck. So a lot of people are going with either running the Crees harder, or they're going with Citizens and Veros. Cree performs great, throughout the range, okay? But as you get higher in drive current, as you get from, beyond 1750 milliamps, as you get to 2100, 2400, 2800 milliamps, that's when Vero and Citizen start to excel. That's where they shine. So running them soft is fine too, but they don't excel like a Cree excels at like those low currents, like an amp and below. So when you get into the bigger spaces, you get into the higher currents. A lot of times we're talking 2100, 2.1 amps. That's when people start looking at Vero and Citizen. And then you can run a chip on board at 100 watts, because we're talking about a 50 volt chip times 2 amps. It's 100 watts for easy math. So if you were to run a Vero or a Citizen setup, like the new Vero 29 Gen 7s, they've got them at DigiKey, they've got them at Timber, they've got them over at Rapid LED. You can run those on a big SSTX heatsink, which is about a $25 heatsink that can handle that 100 watts. And then you've got 100-watt chips. So you have less heat sinks to buy. You have less chips to buy. It's more drivers, but that would be a direction I would look at. Budget is a pretty important concern in a big room. Like, do you want to spend $3,000? Do you want to spend $5,000? Like, how efficient are you wanting to go, and how much can you spend? So quick math. This is an easy one. 10 by 10 room is 100 square feet. And if we do 100-watt cobs and we're using 50 watts a cob per square foot, that's only 20 cobs. So hold on. We need.
Sorry, bro.
Yeah.
Oh, what's up, Gene?
Oh, hey, Gene. What's up, man? Welcome. Thanks for coming in. You probably see me struggling to do live calculator math and get everything right.
Yeah, just a few, doing just fine. It was super loud when you first invited me, and I had saws and drills and shit going. But I figure I'm a little busy, but if I can chime in at all, I'd love to help. Yeah,
you could probably help me with this one. That we're talking about Veg Scrog Bloom, DGC member. He's got a 10 by 10 room, 100 square feet, and I don't know what his budget is, but I'm just going to assume he's in the position of everybody else. He's in DIY to try to like save money, you know? So I was thinking maybe something like a Citizen or Vero 50 volt model at 2.1 amps, you know, just for easy math, 100 watts a chip. How many chips do you think he needs for 100 square feet?
At $100 a chip, we're talking.
Yeah.
I like the Vero 29s. I tell people all the time, I get that question, Citizen, Vero. If I'm going to pick between the two, I'm going to take the Vero. That copper slug on the back is just, it's a thermal killer. Thing's awesome.
And there's a little more data out there of real cannabis grows under Vero. Citizen's great. Obviously, Wookie's going to give us some data, and I'll be paying attention to that data. But and there's threads. But on YouTube, you know, I've seen a few small grows, but I've never seen anyone be like, check this out, 4x8 tray, all Citizen. Here's the wattage. Here's the yield. Here's the report. Whatever.
Yeah, and I don't expect it not to happen. It's just no one's really done it. For me, as like a really chip nerd, I look at how these chips are built, and the Vero is just a superiorly built component compared to the Citizen. If you're going to get down to that, but you know, performance the same, and then Citizen comes in on these really fantastic prices, like the 1212s. Those are like, you know, $12 or something like that. It's pretty. It's hard to argue when you start factoring in certain prices.
Right on. Okay, so if we had 100 square feet and we were shooting for 50 watts a square feet, 50 watts per square foot at, you know, I don't know what those Veros are, maybe like 40 at 2.1 amps. The Gen 7s are somewhere like 47% or 40.
They're pretty good. The 36 volt, even at 90 watts, is essentially 155 lumens per watt right in there.
Okay.
So it's still really good. And that's, if you go to the 70 watt model or the 70 volt version, you can get a little more wattage out of there and keep that efficacy, you know?
Okay. Well, then let's just call it like this. Let's just say 50% efficient, right? Easy math. So 100 square feet, you're going to need like 5,000 watts to hit 50 watts a square foot, right? 50 times 100 is 5,000 watts. And if you just multiply that by, you know, wall plate efficiency of 50%, that's 2,500 par watts, which is about 25 par watts per square foot, which is a little on the high side. So I would say somewhere between 40 and 50 Vero 29 Gen 7s. Okay, we're talking 50 volt at 2.1 amp, and that'll get you there for a 10 by 10 space. 40 of them puts you at 40 par watts a foot. 50 of them puts you at 50 par watts a square foot. No, I'm sorry. Fuck. This is the math's so easy, it's confusing me.
Yeah, I think you're a little high there.
I'm way high.
Yeah,
sorry.
You're about double.
I'm double.
Yeah, exactly.
100 square feet.
I mean, essentially, I would run them in fixtures of 6 to 8. If you're at 100 watts, you run 100 watt chips. You have fixtures of 6. You have 4 fixtures. You're looking at like 24. Maybe 30 chips, somewhere in that range, 20 to 30 chips to manipulate.
That's so much easier way of looking at it.
Yeah, I look at it as 4 fixtures of six to 8 cobs, however you want to roll with that.
Okay. So we're illuminating 4 spaces that are 5x5, right? How many chips do you need for a 5x5? Like 900 watts worth, roughly?
Even, I mean, depending, 700 to 800 watts probably get you there really on a 5x5 for the most part. Might be able to push a few more grams once you get up to that like 900 watts, but you're going to that balance efficiency and overall production.
Okay. Well, I hope that helps Veg Scrog Bloom. I'm bailing out because I'm like fucking up my math and now I just feel stupid. So let's bounce over to Harris. Welcome, Harris. Sorry we made you wait so long to say hi, but thanks for popping in here and hanging out.
No problem, man. I'm just happy to be here.
Yeah, very cool. So are you an LED guy, a DIY guy, interested? What's your story?
I'm a guy that likes to do the best thing. So when I started Alphamis, I just went straight for 1,000 watt HPS because that's just what, that was the standard kind of thing that you saw when you just first looked up what you want to do. And then eventually I got into your vids and I'm like, well, I'm not using the best thing I can be using. And I've gotten through a single harvest with 1,000 watt and it worked out well. But I just look at it, and especially when I see your videos talking about how LEDs tighten it up and dense it up, a lot of my stuff came out a little fluffier than I'd like. And I think LEDs could really help that out. And I'm really interested in the design aspect of it, trying to make sure the light diffusion is as even as possible on the canopy line. So really interested into this stuff.
Absolutely. Okay, so you just did a harvest, 1,000 watt, 4x4 ish, or like 4.5 foot by 4.5 foot tray, or
it's a 4x4 tent.
oh, it's a tent. Okay, sorry. 4x4 tent, 1,000 watt. So you're pushing it. You're definitely like a lot of guys are running 600 in a 4x4. So you're hitting it pretty hard.
Sorry.
No, go ahead. Keep talking.
I was gonna say I basically went for 1,000 because I looked up. It's like, a 600 can get you a 3x3 to a 4x4, and then 1,000 watt can get you a 4x4 to a 5x5. And I was just like, well, if 1,000 watt is still suitable for a 4x4, then I just want to do it because it's, I don't know. The whole thing works,
right, man?
Exactly. We're all about now I'm getting into the efficiency watts and stuff, but I remember this even being on the GrowTube roundtable. You guys, some guys talking about how they just wanted to get as much as they could when they could. So they kind of threw efficiency to the side. And that's kind of what I did a little bit, because I even knew 600s were better than 1,000s on the efficacy side.
Yeah, you sound like Vader OG on the roundtable, or Loki here in the chat. Loki doesn't give a fuck. He's just like, juice it up, baby. I know I'm saving something with LED, but we're gonna juice it up, right? Yeah. Well, cool. Okay, so right now with your 1,000 watt HPS, you're running 62.5 watts per square foot, and it's a single-ended. Do you have a good bulb or Amazon bulb, or what do you got?
It's a Hortilux Super HPS. So I just wanted to get at least not the $30 ones from Vivisun or something.
Okay. Do you have any yield data or anything for us?
Well, sadly, we've been testing it out a lot as it cured and dried. And I didn't really measure it right when I first dried it. So I'm like, I'll just measure it when it's done curing and it's the weight stabilized. And now we've probably smoked out an ounce or two of it. But it looks like I got about 18 out of the whole 4x4.
About 18 ounces?
Mm-hmm, out of the 3 plants.
Okay. So you're only running 3 plants. So, so let's just call it, okay. So 1 pound and 2 ounces. Some guys are pulling 2 pounds, but some of those guys are also running 9 plants or whatever. And, maybe they have adjacent lights that are helping that 1,000 perform a little better, so they can get the 2 per light with an SE. So you're a little on the low side on the yield. The bud came out a little fluffy. So you're looking around, seeing if there's something better. So you're at 62.5 watts a square foot. And we looked at the Bruce Bugby study on the roundtable, and we determined that, standard SE, you're putting about 1.3 micromoles per joule. So if we were to go up to an LED setup that was somewhere, between like 1.8 and 2.1 micromoles per joule, you're looking at a pretty significant increase in photons per watt, right? So 1.3 divided by 1.8, you're looking at about a 28% bump up, right, in photons by switching to LEDs per watt, Gene? If you were to go like into a standard,
essentially over what he's got in the single-ended. If you can get it, and he's a guy who's going to get a top-of-the-line system, so for sure he'll definitely be in that 1.8 to 2.2 if he was going to jump over to LED. And the math, sorry, I'm not checking your math here, but I should be.
No, I'm
guessing you're right on the percentage there.
Okay, so in terms of photons, we'll talk about quality of light in a second, but in terms of photons, you're up here at 62.5 watts a square foot with your 1,000, 1.3 micromoles per joule. You go into a chip on board setup like a Vero or a CXB 3590, and we'll use a very conservative 1.8 micromoles per joule by going to that newer technology, which, as Gene confirmed, is a 28% increase. Your photon yield is 28% more cookies per batch of watts, right? So you hit 1,000 by 28% and 720 watts. So you need 720 watts to have the photon equivalent of 1,000 watt, and that's conservative. Okay, that's conservative. That's not taking into account the distribution of photons in the PAR range, where they are here with HPS and how they move into chip on board, and how that tightens up the buds and everything you were saying earlier. In my personal experience, 600 to 650 watts of CXB 3590 is the equivalent to 1,000 watt in a 4x4. So that's what you're going to need. You're going to need 10 to 12 CXB 3590s at 1400 milliamps. You could push that by going and running them at 1750 milliamps, like some of the PLC products. So you get that extra, 12, 13 watts. And if you look at the sphere data, you're not losing, but like a couple percent, and you're getting, it's more efficient dollar wise. So did you have a budget? Did you mention that?
Oh, this is basically, it's kind of in the cards, kind of thing. I'm trying to use the current harvest to pay for the next one, kind of thing, to slowly build up stuff. So
story of my life.
Yeah, but I'm making sure no matter how slowly I build it, I want to build a light that's going to last, kind of thing.
Well, that's another nice thing about DIY is that you don't, I've had people be like, well, I'm in a rental, or I'm in a prohibition state, I'm moving in 3 months, or I can't afford it now. Nice thing about DIY is build your metal frame, because that's what takes the longest, is building and fabricating the frame, right, Dan? The fabrication.
Maybe for other people, not me.
Well, you're a freaking professional TIG welder and fabricator, but how long did it take you to do your fabrication before you even touched an LED?
Before I even touched it, like, what do you mean? Like building the frame? Probably about 2 hours.
Okay, and then how long did it take you to mount the LEDs and get light?
That probably took about another 3 hours.
Oh, so for you it was the inverse.
Yeah.
Okay. When you
it
get
took
a little
me longer to wire everything up because I'm a little bit of a perfectionist. I had to have all the lights all perfect and everything.
Dan, I love you, man, but I got to make fun of you. You spent 3 hours wiring a solderless LED kit?
Well, I put a dimmer kit on it too, so I had to solder some things. But yes, I generally took more than enough time.
Well, thank you for helping completely destroy the point that I was trying to make, which
sorry.
The frame, typically on a larger build, if you're not a professional metal worker by trade like Dirtman Dan, typically requires the least amount of money and the most amount of time. So you could start your fabrication today. Loki, what do you think? What takes you longer, the wiring or the building the damn frames?
The building the damn frame. My first frame I built out of wood.
You said that last night.
I took some 2x4. I took some computer heat sinks. I drilled them straight into the 2x4. Cut. See, that's the call I was trying to avoid. But yeah, I drilled into the 2x4 and I just used wood. I didn't have any other choice.
Yeah.
Well, most people don't have the tools I have, so
True.
I can say that's what took it a little, quicker for me.
Okay, gotcha. I'm seeing a lot of questions come in. Wookie, you're just monitoring the guys that are tagging me as well, right? As you.
Yeah. I got a whole
question
list
too.
here. I got a huge list for you. Whenever
Okay, before we move to
deck.
you, Dan, did that Harris? Did that adequately answer your question? Do you need a little more info on and guidance on what to buy or what to look for? Let me silver bullet point it. Let me silver bullet point it one more time. Okay, we're using 1,000. Got a little over a pound. We're looking for about 600 to 700 watts of LED or chip on board LED to replace this 1,000 is 4x4 10. I'm recommending between 10 and 12 CXB 3590s, maybe 12 of them at 1400 milliamps, or maybe 10 of them at 1750 milliamps. So that would be, if you went that route, the 1750 milliamp, you're going to get 60, 62 watts of chip. So 10 of those is fine. And that's really convenient because the HLG 320-C1750B runs how many chips, Gene? 5? It runs 6. It runs 6.
Which one?
The HLG 320-1750. I thought it ran 5.
Oh, 1750. No,
Yeah.
yeah, you're at 5. Sorry, I was on 1400.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right. It's very, very close. Like you can get 6 to light up, but it'll like automatically correct, and you end up with a far lower current than if you just got the correct drivers. You end up with like
1,200 milliamps when you try that.
I think it's like 12 and change exactly.
So you gimp yourself, really.
And it's the same thing in the past when we tried before the CXB came out. We used to try to put 4 CXAs or 4 Vero 29s on like a 185 or something, and that again, it'll light up, but once you actually check your wattage, you're not actually getting the current you're getting. So for those guys building Vero 29s out there, just check that too.
Gotcha. Cool. And the same thing would go. You could go 3590s, or you could go with the 36 volt version of Vero 29, you know, as well.
Well, no, so that's the issue. The one thing with the Vero 29 is they use one extra die in their string, and so that 38 volts really versus a true 36, that's what I'm talking about. So like when you run a 4 Vero 29s, the 38 volt version on the 1700 4s, it's actually only 200 and around 220 amps or 220 watts, excuse me, because it auto corrects that current. But it'll light up and it's extremely bright, and a lot of people aren't noticing the difference. So just those driver pairings are real important. Sorry.
No, I got you. Isn't the Vero SE a true 36 volt?
The SE might be, but not the actual Vero 29, the flagship model.
Okay. Let's check out Rapid LED, just because I can navigate their site much quicker than DigiKey or some other website. And Rapid's cool as fuck. It's cool how they kind of got it. You know, they're doing aquariums for 5 years or whatever, and they like, sure, we can get grow stuff. You know, so they're hooking it up.
I love Rapid. Their customer service is great.
It is great. I've been down there and toured through, you know, and the way they have their little area where they can, you know, test customer products that have a little problem. You know, they got a little bench, and, you know, they got the phone lines and the shipping center. It's real clean and neat and just cool. The guys down there are cool. So, you're right, Gene. Even the SE is like 37.6 volts. So, okay, you're right. So the when we say 36 volt version, that's more of a shorthand.
Exactly, and it's confusing because when you light these babies up, it's 215 watts of Vero 29, which is extremely bright. But when you're expecting 250 and you're shorted 30 watts, some people freak out a little bit.
Yeah.
So that's the one thing that the Vero has the issue with, is that one. And all they have to do, just Bridgelux, if you're listening, just rearrange your strings a little bit, drop one die off that series, and we'd be right there, because that's what they did from CXA to CXB. They rearranged the die, dropped one die, and all of a sudden we went from 38 to 36.
Okay, cool.
So that's where a Citizen, you know, the ease of the build kind of may overtake the little bit of advantages that maybe the Vero has in certain other aspects.
Yeah. Okay. Let me do some looking up stuff. I'm going to toss the mic to Dirtman Dan, so we just don't have dead air while I'm looking up the voltage on some things. So, Dirtman Dan, going back to you, I cut you off. You were about to ask a question.
Well, it wasn't for me. It was from somebody in chat, but Demenis wanted to know something about if we could run a little bit of math for some quantum boards for him. He wanted to run 4 of the QB 288, the 54 volt boards, and he wanted to run them at 125 watts each. Was curious what type of driver or drivers he was going to need.
Well, I love quantum boards, but I hate what it does to my brain, because when I'm in COB world, I'm like, I didn't even honestly hear the question. So let's wrap this up real quick, and we'll go. I'll switch my brain mechanism.
What does he want to run them at 100? He wants to run them at 100 watts.
125
watts. So the HLG 120, which is technically a 150 watt driver, it's going to be within that one. I want to say off the top of my head, it's the 1.4 amps. Should give you right about that, but don't quote me. You might be able to go 1750 and be okay there. But actually, now that I say that, they don't make that current for that driver. So you're kind of stuck maybe to 14. How's that sound?
Yeah, I mean, the boards, the original design boards max at 1600 milliamps, right? So 14 is pushing them to the max. And in my opinion, if you are so budget limited that you've got to push that board to 1400, you're kind of losing the little theoretical edge that you might be able to get from the board. I just buy a Vero and push that. It's going to be cheaper, and you're going to get more wattage more efficiently at those higher currents out of a Vero. But if you have to do a QB at 1400, it'll work. Make sure you get the Slate 2 heatsink or some other heatsink with some decent fins, because it will put out some heat. I personally,
it's a good candidate for what you were talking about earlier. Maybe you start out at 1400, but you slap one more board on there as you progress, after the first harvest, and all of a sudden you go from 1400 where it's, you know, not super efficient and maybe cost effective, but once you split it up, you know, might be a way to get you off the ground and get started if QBs are something you want to go with.
That I wish I would
just to use.
I wish I would have remembered
your own information, bro.
No, I know. I was like, I'm sitting here giving conflicting advice like 10 minutes later. No, you're right, Gene. It's a good perspective. You know, you got $150 basically in that kind of setup, and then you throw another 75 plus 20 for the, you know, another 95. It might
be cheaper, but you know, they're 75 today. By the time you harvest, who knows? They might be 65. So
you never know. That would be a great strategy, because that puts you from 14 down to 700. Then you're in the juicy zone. But just poor Harris. Going back to Harris. Okay, 37.6 volts times 5 is 188 volts. Okay, and in terms of the driver that you would be selecting, if we look here at the HLG 320 1750, no, man, it's like 5 volts short. So that's really not a great recommendation. In this scenario, I would go with the 12 Cree, or I'd actually go with a Citizen, something with a 12 in the front. So 048 12 12, or, you know, I don't know if there's an 058 12 18 or whatever, but you need to be running probably a 36 volt cob either way. So I don't know.
All right,
Harris, what else? The goal of this thing was like to get people on live and like really help them. So I don't know if you've been adequately helped.
I'm sorry, I do actually have 2 other questions. I can make them quick.
Go ahead. No, your questions are fine. It's my diatribes that make it long. Go ahead.
I love hearing you guys talk. When talking about total wattage of your setup, if I wanted to put discrete diodes in there for, you know, hitting specific points, would that be included in your overall wattage when you're talking about watts per square foot, or do you want to rely on the Crees and then just let the XPGs be like additional kind of thing? I know certain things should be about like 10% or 20% of what the overall wattage is, but I'm not sure if that's what you put in the whole ratio of like watts you're using to make photosynthesis and stuff.
I understand the question. I'm going to rephrase it, and then I'm going to kick it to Green Gene for the answer, because I think he's definitely has been and is continuing to familiarize himself with some of the cutting edge discretes that are coming out. So you have a cob build that's a white base. You either may be interested today or at some future date in adding maybe a little color, like some reds or 660s, and you want to know, do I include the wattage that those colored LEDs pull into my calculations of like, do I have enough juice to make the plants grow, or are those just something extra just for like color or flavor? So did you get that, Gene? As far as you know, as far as including the wattage from the reds, and you're muted, but I hope you'll talk about. I hope you'll talk about the photon ratios in those reds and how they're getting better.
Exactly, and that's what. So the short answer to your question is you're going to count everything that you use. So if you're using, you know, 500 watts of white COBs, and then you're adding 100 watts of, you know, various reds and blues or whatever, you have 600 watts going into that system. And that's what's important. So if you build a system now that's all white and is totally qualified to do everything it needs to do on its own, and then you add more on top of it, you're just going to be adding more light. And that could be, you know, it's not a bad thing. It's not a good thing. It's just you are adding more light, and that does need to be counted into what you're factoring into the plants. And then, so the reason that's important is these additions that we're adding aren't just supplemental in spectrum. Especially when we get down to these really new high efficiency 660s and whatnot. Basically, what it comes down to is their efficacy is so much higher than a white or a blue or a green or any other color that just a little bit of wattage goes a long way with some of these 660s and stuff. So when you're adding it, you need to realize that you're adding, you can't just say I'm adding 600 watts. You have to break it down in a photon basis and say, okay, I'm adding 500 watts at 1.8 micromoles per joule, and then I'm adding 60 watts at 2.8 micromoles per joule. You get a little equation, you add them up, and that'll give you your total input and a much more reliable and accurate depiction of the photon and the light output going on your plants. So when you start to add these things, they do need to be kind of counted for and taken into consideration because they vary so much from a white spectrum. That close?
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, that's perfect, Gene. And we've talked about it before, but we just have to talk when you say terms like inversely proportional. Certain people, a switch of people's brains turn on, like inversely proportional to others, and inversely proportional in terms of these LEDs means that a blue LED has a lot of energy, but it's not super photon rich at the same wattage as a red LED that can put out a shitload of photons at a low energy, right? And that's the energy of the wavelength. So like what Gene was saying is that when you run a red, you are getting a tremendous amount of sheer quantity of photons out of that red. And those photons can very much be included in photosynthesis and in your calculation of total system watts. And in fact, I think we should go, check that out.
Hey, I just got a little off-topic news flash I want to drop in here real quick for everybody in chat, all the homies. I know a lot of people have been waiting for this, but we got Lumberjack Seed Source has Obi-Wan OG and Ninja Fruit in stock to the public right now. So I know a lot of people have been waiting for those to drop so they can jump on and snag them. So I'm about to grab something right now.
Go jump on that Ninja Fruit, man. I've been wanting to get a hold of that stuff for a while.
Yeah, I just got the Jedi, so I've been waiting for the Ninja Fruit as well. Actually, somebody else talk.
Just
Not to advertise.
Just wanted to try. I know
You
you've
can
been
go.
waiting on that, so I just wanted to shout that out real quick.
Yeah, I think we'll need to shut down the live stream. I'm legitimately going to order some Ninja Fruit like right now. What's the next question while I do this order? Oh yeah, the password is Timber.
Real quick, we have
You might want to turn off your
Anthony
screen
in
share
chat
then.
I will once I enter my personal information. But thanks, Dan.
It's only after he does it.
I believe this is Mr. Growbeard. Just want to welcome him to the live stream here. I think that if you're there, still there, bro.
Yeah, I'm there.
Oh
All right,
shit!
right
There's
on.
someone else in here that has.
Yes.
Oh my gosh! I'm sorry. My Google, I have it minimized, so your little box is off to the left. You're all by yourself. Okay. What's up, brother?
Okay.
Welcome.
Not bad, not bad. So I bought 12 trees. I was kind of.
Am I the only one looking at Gene?
No, I've seen that too.
I was kind of trying to do the 250, but since you guys were talking, I noticed that I messed up. You said that the 750 would be 250. See, I went with the 240 at 14. So I noticed I messed up a little bit there. But what I really wanted to know is spacing. How should I space that for my area?
Okay. Let me just get a big picture kind of view. So, what size space do you have?
Well, right now it's open, but I wanted to build something like Gene had actually, where he had it, where there's going to be 2 walls and then the back wall. So it's going to be 3 walls and it's going to be in there. But I have 1,000-watt HPS and then I want to run this. So I have 2, right? So it's basically going to be a 4x8, but 3 walls.
Yeah, I got that. And I run that way on my back wall too, which is great because you get 3 sides reflectivity, right? And great access. Okay. So we got a 4x8 space. And are you looking to do like a LED HPS half and half, or do you want to integrate the whole thing?
Well, right now I'm going to run both because then I can run more. But eventually I'm going to get, so it's going to be a half and half. Okay,
so you want to keep your 1,000-watt HPS here, and you want to do COBs here, as opposed to integrating them with, maybe the HPS in the center and COB supplements, basically expanding the spread.
Yeah, I'll probably do half and half because I do plan on eliminating the 1,000-watt when I can get more COBs.
Okay.
So
I think if you were saving the 1,000, I think that this would be cooler and better. Because you get all this mixed spectrum, you get to make a lot of analysis about the plants under the HPS and the ones that are hybrids and the one that are only cobs. But if this is going to be, gone from the equation, then yeah, clearly this example makes sense in your scenario.
Yeah.
So, okay. And you said you bought some components already for the other. So we're just basically calling this a 4x4 plus basically for the cobs as your LED space, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and you've bought some components?
Yeah, I bought them because I thought I know what I was doing, but
okay, and we all know what you're talking about, but
yeah.
tell us the full model numbers of what you bought.
Okay, 1 second.
You bought some drivers?
Yeah. Mouse, when you have a second, can you throw me a wrench in chat, bro?
Yeah, I should know how to do that.
I had it up and
I don't know how to do that, Wiki.
It sounded like he had a 240 1400, possibly.
Okay, yeah, it's right here. Sorry.
I think you just gave it to me in Google Hangouts. You have to actually go to YouTube. Sorry.
Okay.
I got 3 Meanwell HDL 240HC 1400Bs.
Okay. Gene, you listen up and answer this. I'm going to deal with this situation.
Yeah, how many you got there?
I got 12.
So you've got 12 chips and 3 drivers.
3 drivers.
So you basically got it set up so you can make a 600 watt system, ran off 3 200 watt drivers from what it sounds like.
Yeah.
That honestly, my friend, is that's a pretty damn good setup. I noticed you said you thought you might have made a mistake going 1400 over 1750.
Yeah.
Honestly, in the space that you have, it's not going to make or break you. And honestly, sometimes being all the way up in a confined space like that might be just a little bit too much. So I don't think you made a mistake. I think down the line, if you want to upgrade to maybe 2100s as more drivers come out, when you do want to upgrade, there'll be even more options out there. But yeah, I don't think you made a mistake at all. That's actually a really good setup. You're going to be getting fantastic efficiency, just like we've kind of been talking about. It's what I've ran for years and years and years. I know Mouse essentially runs a very similar wattage per square foot. And did you mention, are they Crees or are they Citizens?
Yes,
or are they Veros?
Crees CXB 3590s. I got
Fantastic.
half is 35 and half is 4000.
Oh, okay. So you have a nice little mixed spectrum there too. Yeah,
So,
I honestly, I don't. That sounds like a pretty damn textbook perfect setup. I don't know how the rest of everyone else feels about that, but pretty darn good to me.
Should I run them as you have them, like 4 in rows, or should I change them some way? Like that.
Oh, you're talking about configuration and spacing.
Configuration, spacing,
Yeah.
At 1400, I don't like to space the COBs or the COBs out any more than 12 inches on center. After that, they start getting just a little bit too diffused, and especially as if you raise the fixture up. So 12-inch on center spacing within the single bars. I'm talking on a row of 4. I wouldn't ever space them more than 4 feet or a foot on center. But for you, I'm thinking maybe more around like 9-10 inches on center might be a really really good one there.
I like 10 inches on center.
Bars. Okay.
I find that the side that is that final cob that's close to your back wall, when you mount the light in the center on a 4-foot deep space, that at 10-inch spacing, that final cob towards the end, there's a really nice even distribution of light towards the back wall where there's the reflectivity. When you go to 12, you end up with like this really kind of hot spot in the back wall, because it's like you've got this fucking wall right there if it's white or reflective. On the front, your walk and you lose a little bit more photons to your walkway, when you go with that wide spacing. I think the 10-inch, and that puts you at and
also he's only in a 4-foot restricted area too, so he really doesn't want any light spill mostly outside of that 4 foot. So
absolutely.
Definitely. Versus someone who's trying to push a 5 foot out of that section. And I wanted to ask you, were you talking about the wall when you said the wall there, Anthony, I believe?
Yeah.
Was that in the center, or you just meant a back wall and 2 side walls?
Yeah, that's just going to be a back wall and 2 side walls. I haven't built it yet, but it's coming.
Okay, I was under the impression somehow you were running like a side by side with a one middle wall in that. So that's
No, it's going to be
here
open.
nor there. Cool.
This is nothing new. This has been the prototypical, extruded bar heat sink design on Roll It Up for like the last several years. 36-inch bar, whether that's pin heat sinks or whatever, 10-inch spacing gives you, a 36-inch frame, and that's 6 inches on either side of the 4-foot space. And I think this is going to really work nicely for your space. If it was 5 foot, like Gene was saying, you could go longer. What? Yeah. What is the geometry on the CXP 250, Gene? In terms of spacing between cobs, that's a 40-inch bar or 42. I forget. I'm gonna unmute him.
Secret.
There he is.
Are you talking to me?
I'm talking.
Headphones.
Yeah,
I just got the headphones back in. Sorry.
What's the geometry on the CXP 420 in terms of spacing and total bar length?
Total bar length is 39 inches.
Okay.
Spacing, I forget the exact. I could grab a caliper real quick.
It looks like it's maybe like 10 and a.
Yeah, it's right around. I wanted to say it's like just almost even a hair under 10 on this one, and the final ones are just a little bit over 10 at like 10 3/4 or something.
Okay. Well,
Like that,
go.
And
You're right in there.
could I get one more question in here?
Of course.
What would be the easiest way? Like I see Gene mixes with daisy chains. Is that the easiest way for me to do it? Because I've never built one of these before. And I didn't see anything like that on Rapid when I was buying it.
Oh, you're talking about daisy chaining the AC power of multiple bars?
Together. Yeah.
That's
or
a good question.
should I just connect? Like I couldn't find any of those 5 Wagos, right? So now I don't, like I kind of know what to do. You put them together, but I don't know.
if they're going to be individual bars, it's hard to put them all into one power. I mean, you could do it. You could have like kind of 2-foot power cords coming out of the end of the bars that then kind of merge into either like a junction box or some kind of splitter plug or something along those lines. It could be done. Or honestly, the easiest way to be kind of just like I described, but instead of going into a splitter plug, you just have individual plugs on each driver and you get a little, a little 3-outlet converter and just plug them all straight in right there. Might be the easiest. And I know that's not the perfectly like fancy clean way to do it, but it might be the easiest. And then that way, if you want to move a bar elsewhere, you just unplug one bar from that power strip there and can kind of move it elsewhere if you need to. I don't know if that works for you.
I would say that sounds like the easiest way to go.
Yeah, so a junction box. All right.
Yeah, like a junction box and put some outlets in and just plug them in or something. Be real easy.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, I was grabbing some show and tell. I'm going to let you get to that in just one sec, Gene. I want to talk about discretes a little bit more. I like the computer power supply thingies, because they're cheap. You can get a 5-pack on Amazon, and it allows you to use all those old HPS and computer power supply cords. This is, and the convention's weird. This is actually a male, even though it looks like it kind of has a female hole. The male refers to the pins. This is the way I built Wookie Cush's box too. So this is the male. There's a female version too. And if you go to your computer supply shop, there's all these jumper cords. So if you put a male and a female, one of these, I don't have the female version. It looks a little different. But if you put a male and a female on each bar, then you can just jump them with these pre-built cords. And the back you can either solder or you could use crimp and heat shrink connections, on the backs of these. So that would be another method. But if you do want to make your life a lot easier, just in general life easiness, these are the 5-position Wagos. Now these are the 221. The ones that are gray and orange are 222. So the 221s are newer. They came out late last year. They're a little cheaper. Maybe 17 cents each or something. And I just buy these off of Amazon. I usually buy them off the box, by the box, because I go through so many. But if you want singles, I think Rapid has re-upped on singles, and I know Cutter sells singles at like box prices, so like 14 cents each. So, that's ordering from Australia to get a plastic connector. But check Amazon, check Rapid, check Cutter. So But if you want to do it without this, you can always use wire nuts from Home Depot or AutoZone. It's totally viable. Wire nuts, cable ties, electrical tape. It might not win the beauty contest, but it'll work.
I checked the Rapid. They didn't have any 4 or 5s, and I believe you need a 4 to get those. And I'm in Canada, so I've checked Amazon, all that, and I haven't found them anyway. Because if I was in Canada, yeah, if I was in the States, I would just buy PLCs. Would have made my life easier.
Yeah.
But, that's why I said I can't find those, so I wanted to see an alternative. But the computer thing looks pretty simple.
Ideal is another company that makes some similar ones, and I think they have some lever versions. So I don't know, maybe they have some distributors in Canada. Just check them out. Ideal.
Okay.
Cool. All right. Harris, I'm sorry, I'm so spacey. Are we all? Did you think of anything? Because sometimes when I go into the grocery store, like Loki, you go in and you had to walk around for 30 minutes to remember what was going on. How you doing over there, buddy?
Oh, I'm doing great. You guys are going through, and then I can't be the center of attention all the time. Other people are asking questions.
Sure. Well, if you end up getting anything off a Rapid LED, use Grow Mouse at checkout. You'll save 5%. But if you don't go with the Vero route, you could definitely get Citizens from either cobkits.com. Northern Grow Lights still has some Citizens left, so, some 36 volt for real cheap. You could do basically just like Wookie Kush did. If you check out his build, and actually, you know what? Everybody go subscribe to Wookie Kush, because if you want to learn not just about Citizens, but if you want to see someone that's going to do a decent sized grow of cannabis with Citizen COBs and show us the cannabis efficacy of something that everyone's hyping, like Citizens, fuck yeah, man, crushing Cree, like fuck you, Citizen tattoo on my arms. Let's see some grows, man. I mean, I'm not hating on Citizen. I'm just saying, like,
Citizen tattoo on my arm.
I get spreadsheet boners too, man, just like the next guy. But like, let's grow with it, right? So subscribe.
Wookie's
to
gonna crush it, dude. I have a lot of faith in Wookie.
Yeah, totally. And I think my producer has stepped away. He's muted. He's probably doing. No, he's not.
I'm here. My wife brought me lunch. I just don't want you guys to have to see me stuff my face.
Oh, that's cool. Okay, producer, guide me. It's funny. I feel like subcool because like when you have a producer of the show, you don't have to be so multitasky, and so you just let your brain relax, and you're just like, yeah, someone else handling this shit. Oh, actually, you know what? Before we go to the next question, Gene, a lot of people ask, how much 660, all that stuff, discrete diodes, etc. You just showed a couple, a discrete package over the cob. Is that a 3 mil footprint, 2.7 millimeter footprint? What are those?
Yeah, so we got XPGs essentially, or XPEs, however you want to look at it, on top of a 3590 here, so you can see the size discrepancy. They're not on a star. Most people in the DIY world, they're going to get them on a 25 millimeter star, and it's going to almost as if it's on this cob platform. But just look how small they are. They're a 35 or a 3.5 by 3.5 millimeter package, and it is just unbelievably small. If you go on to PLC, Pacific Light Concepts Instagram, I took a nice little picture of the XPE, and you can just see the detail. And it's amazing at how much light these things produce for such a small platform. When I first got into LEDs, 10 years ago, and I saw the Chias this size, it just blew my mind. When you're used to these, cobs are big, and now you have these giant emitting surfaces on boards. It's cool.
My XML2s crush it in this little box, man. I have to wear sunglasses. And
Dan,
those are probably even better.
The first comment I ever left about you was like, hey, noob, when you're showing us how bright your light is, take the camera off of auto. And I thought it was funny. Chat room thought it was funny. And I think you kind of enjoyed it a little bit. Then later, as we became like friends, we talk pretty much almost every day, as time allows on Instagram. But you told me and showed me some of your fucking incredible photographs. You were a professional photographer for many years, correct?
Yeah. I actually had my own wedding photography company for like 3 years.
So I'm giving photo advice to a professional photographer. And we're not talking about cars. We're talking about the most important day of a woman's life. Like they vet these guys. Like they go through, they take your blood sample. You know, they get your full
the
background
interviews
history.
are intense. You're absolutely right, man. That's why I had to stop. I couldn't take the grueling interviews.
Right on. We're gonna turn.
Dirtman Dan, I'm gonna nominate you for the next most interesting man in the world.
Thank you.
Those commercials, man. There's lots of facets to Dirtman that not a lot of people know about.
Yeah, dude, I try to keep it interesting, man. I can't stay still. I'm one of those type of people.
It's so true. You hear about Dirtman Dan, you know, and you're like, oh, well, you know, Dirtman Dan. So, okay, we got a simple guy, you know, keep it simple, possibly a backwoods guy with a beard. And then you find out, you know, he's building, like, what is that humidifier that you built? It was like ultrasonic, and he's TIG welding, and he's a fucking photographer, and like, then he's fixing up muscle cars and like America.
Yeah, man. I got 2 jobs. I'm an aluminum welder at my first job. The second job, I weld body work for my buddy's shop, and he just happens to get like all types of cool stuff down there. We got like old school Beetles. We got old school. We got a '69 Camaro down there. There's a Chevelle. There's like a 7-second drag car. Like you name it, man. We get to play with all types of cool shit down there.
That's cool, man. I noticed Loki bouncing in and out. You still with us, bro? You got anything pressing on your mind? I wanted to give the panel. Well, I just don't want to talk anymore. So
yeah, I'm here actually just looking through. I'm looking through Dirtman Dan Instagram. I've never seen it. I'm over here checking out the cars. Man. It's cool.
Yeah, follow Dirtman Dan and subscribe to him. His little like travesty of a plant that was so sad and pathetic for so many weeks is doing something. It's fucking growing.
All right, so you want a little backstory on that?
Backstory. We got a lot of questions, but go ahead.
All right, that was actually a bud from harvest that just for shits and giggles I threw back into a cup of water and got it to re-veg.
It was like a bud, like because that thing has.
Yeah, that was a bud. That was like a little tiny micro bud from harvest that wasn't worth shit, and just for shits and giggles, I threw it back in a cup of water and I got it to re-veg.
Holy shit, dude, that's pretty incredible.
Yeah, that's why I was like so proud of it, and I was showing it off. I was like, you don't like people didn't really understand. Like it was just a clipping, and I threw it in a cup of water for a couple weeks, and boom, it took root.
You got to time lapse that next time, bro.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, kicking it back to Wookie Kush. What do we got coming up?
I have an idea here. I don't know. You let me know if you want to do it or not. But I got so many questions here. I got a couple that are kind of like short questions that certainly I'm sure you could give a long answer to. But you want to try like a little rapid fire, quick answer.
Yep. Let's
knock some of these out so they get something instead of nothing.
Let's do that. Let's go ahead and here's what we're gonna do. Chat room and everybody. We're anybody that wants to, unmute your mic. You can leave it unmuted. I don't care. You're going to ask the question and then just boom, hit it. So anybody on the panel, go for it.
All right, here we go. First question from Los. How much 3590 at 5,000 Kelvin for a veg and 3x3?
6.
Yeah, anything you can get 200 watts out of, I think, is probably a good veg wattage for a 3x3 area.
I'd buy an HLG 240, 1400 milliamp, and I'd run 5 of them on 130 or 140 millimeter heat sinks in either a X pattern with one in the center or some kind of 5-sided configuration, which would be a lot more tricky. So you probably end up with an X frame with 4 on the corners, 1 in the center. HLG 240, 250 watts, 5,000 Kelvin. Sounds like a winner.
Yep.
Or you could just buy. Do we still?
17
do we still
and do
make?
4. Yeah.
Does PLC still make the CXP 420, the 6 cobber?
It's sort of around. It's out of stock, and I need to reorder some things. And since we're here, it's just gonna get more wattage. So I need to change some things before I can throw more wattage on it.
Okay.
So but there might be a few.
Think about buying one. If you get frustrated with the build, contact Green Gene and he'll figure out how to sell you one. But
I might have some used or some scratch and dents laying around. So if you guys are interested, email PLC. Or I always try to hook up the viewers. So
yeah, Gene, sure. I've always heard that. I've always heard that like people that are actual fans of your channel and stuff like that, they always get kind of hooked up a little bit, right? Dope.
That's how you would hook people up. Northern hooks people up. You know, we're always trying to give back and hook it up where we can.
Cool. Next.
Next question. I didn't write down the name of the asker, but he's probably in here and he'll know it's from him. 2 quantum boards or a 315 CMH for a 2 by 2.5 flower tent.
2 feet by 2.5.
2 quantum boards or a 315 CMH.
315 is going to be too much for a 2 by 2.5.
Yeah, boards. Even if you pump up a ton of wattage, you can still dim them down throughout the growth there. That's huge, right?
Yeah, 315 seems a little much for a 2 by 2.5.
Was that veg? Did he say veg for that, or was that the last question I'm thinking about?
Flower.
Okay.
Flower.
Okay.
Oh, for flower, I do two quantum boards on an HLG 240/1050B and add a dimmer.
Word.
All right, next question. Alaska Med Grower asks, is the technology slowing down? Is quantum boards going to be here for a while? What's the next step?
I'm going to take this because, and then I'm going to pass it to Gene. Somewhere on the internet or something, somebody was talking about like diminishing returns and is the technology slowing down? And that was like 3 weeks ago or maybe a month ago. And I was like, yeah, the technology is kind of tapering off, you know, blah, 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 blah. I was talking out of my ass. Maybe LED technology as a whole technology for hotels and parking lot structures and stuff like that. 2015, 2016 was here, and maybe it's leveled off slightly in terms of the whole market and gallium nitride technology and different bonding technologies, all that stuff. But in terms of LED applications for horticulture, we're still very much 2017, growing fast. The shit you're going to see towards late summer into fall of this year, horticulture applications for diodes and discretes, it's going to blow your mind. Gene.
Yeah, I mean, it is. COBs brought things over the last few years into a lot of DIY hands. And but as far as the industry goes, they've been progressing on tons of other things that not a lot of people have been paying attention to, or not a lot of people have been implementing yet. So there's plenty to come. I think that was probably the best explanation. Hotels and everything, essentially on the lighting aspect, general prices are going to come down and efficacy is kind of into the diminishing returns already. But as prices come down, new things become possible that just weren't in the head as a design before because it was so price inhibitive. So definitely a bunch of new things going to come out this year for sure. Nothing that's going to like completely blow your mind, but it's just going to be performance wise. Just things are just getting better and better, and HPS won't even be talked about soon.
I was talking to Vader a little bit last night and talking about, you know, when you make that switch from HPS or some HID technology to LED, and some people see this massive like, holy shit, LED changed my life, because maybe they were, you know, kind of lower in the HPS scale, you know, maybe getting a pound and a quarter per light. And then they go into an LED product and it changes their life. Other people like Vader are already up in that cutting edge of what's possible, theoretically possible with an HPS. And they have amazing gardening techniques, and they go into an LED, and the gain seems a little more nominal. There's still very much a gain. It's a nominal gain. And where I was going with that is, if you are one of the people that was using a Mars or, you know, one of the many other Epistar type of products, and you bump into either today's technology or later this year's technology, I think there's still some massive gains, like life-changing gains in the grow room to be seen later this year. I don't know why I went on that diatribe, but no.
LEDs changed my growing. I mean, my plants look a hell of a lot better since I switched to LEDs.
I second that.
Well, yeah, bro. When you had that HPS in that little box, it wasn't working too well for you, bro.
I wasn't running an HPS. I was running CFLs.
Really quickly, I want to get this thought out of my brain and into Green Gene's brain so he can remember it. The trend. So here's my thought and philosophy, and I think this could be an entire tech talk, like a 2-hour deal, me and you, and we just fucking prepare, get the spreadsheets, and we just go into it. White LEDs used to suck. COBs either were not around or they were so prohibitively expensive at $140 a chip you couldn't afford to build one. So we used blue and red LEDs to make blurple lights because of cost effectiveness, and that's the only way that we could get the amount of photons to even think about competing. White LEDs progressed way beyond the capabilities of the red and the blue. Blurple kind of fell out of favor. Everyone's hating on Blurple. White was king. Now we're starting to see red and blue diodes increase in their efficacy and efficiency along with whites, and it could be a more effective way to get some photons. So I think an entire tech talk of how we've seen it, Blurple was king because that's the only thing you can do. Then white was king. And I think there may be a trend of a strong white base coming back with more than just a couple blues and a couple reds. Do you think that would be a decent topic worth? I think this year you're going to
it'd be a great topic. I'm not even going to answer it. Come
don't
watch
even
Tech
answer.
Talk, boys. Come watch Tech Talk. We'll
Tech
get
Talk.
it
So
done.
are we doing another Tech Talk?
I miss Tech Talk
Yeah,
so much.
honestly, dude, I was debating on throwing one up, and then you said last night, like, you were like, "Oh, I'm gonna stream tomorrow." I was like, "Well, I don't need to do anything. I'll just wake up." And I was working. I was waiting. I thought you'd be on here earlier. I was checking in, like, "Where are you at, Mouse?" You said you were gonna live stream.
I usually would get on earlier, but I just woke up at a fucking noon. So I think we should do it.
We'll get a tech talk going. It's not a hard thing, and that's a good topic. And I've been brainstorming a few. I want it to be after Dago's kind of taken the role with the roundtable and seeing how organized he's been with it. I'd like to get it. That was our issue with Tech Talk, was the disorganization and whatnot. So I just want to make sure it's ready, and then we'll get it rolling.
The chat is on fire for Tech Talk as well.
Yeah, buddies.
Yeah, I was going to chime in. Everybody wants Tech Talks back.
When the movie Anchorman with Will Ferrell came out, it changed lives. It's like the most quoted movie ever, and it was fucking awesome. And there was no hope of a Anchorman 2. And many years, 10 years went by, 8 years went by. Anchorman 2 dropped off. So we're like, holy fucking shit, Tech Talk's back, Anchorman 2. And the movie was the same jokes, and it kind of sucked. So when we do this thing, we got to be prepared. We got to have our data. We got to have our calculations, and we got to go big because, people are anticipating it, right?
Well, and the tech world has increased. Probably, I mean, a lot of where we were, or what we were just presenting as what we thought was a little more in depth at the time, because it's just common knowledge for a lot of the guys in the chat and a lot of guys who've been following the movement of DIY for the past 3 years, I guess, here now.
Sure.
So it'll be fun. I'm interested. Like I said, I want to do it. We will do it, chat, and it's just something we don't want to rush.
Yeah, and we'll give you guys at least 3 days notice.
Yes.
Yeah.
For sure. It'll be a scheduled event. It won't be a live random.
Right. I'm getting a little crackle coming from Eugene. Maybe just a connection or something. But what do we got next? What?
Brandon DP asks, 110 volt versus 220 volt. Is there a yield difference?
No.
Like
Testing.
bud yield?
That's correct. I'm assuming it just says yield difference. So
Okay, so
you're not going to get any more photons out of your lights, right? You're just going to be running them more efficiently, I'm assuming?
I don't know.
So okay, it's weird. The short answer is no. You're not going to get any more yield. But when you look at the light as what gives you your ppf per watt is everything that's in the light. So drivers, this, that, all factored in gives you a ppf per watt. Let's take my light, the CXP 250. On 120 volts, it runs 273 volts. On 240 volts, it runs 263 volts. So essentially, you save 11 watts or 5% going from 120 to 240, and that technically does affect your efficacy. So if you were to look at it, you'd go from, say you got 1 gram per watt on 120, you would have gotten 1.00001 grams off 240. So you save 10 watts, and it technically affects it. But I probably shouldn't even have said that because it just makes it more confusing.
No, it doesn't. It
Are you
don't
just
have
splitting
any
hairs at
more
that point?
bud, but your metric is slightly better.
Exactly. You dropped if you had 3 bars, you dropped 30 watts on your system, and you still yielded the same. So it's not going to change your light output. Your light is still going to be putting out 1400 milliamps or 1750 milliamps of light per diode. There, you're still going to be getting the same drive current. But what it's going to cost you, the taxes it costs you to get that light up and running, are slightly less on 240 and higher voltages. So on a commercial grow, when you have hundreds of lights, saving 30 watts of light starts to add up. You're essentially saving your oscillating fan power by going to 240.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. I want to address something in chat. Heightened Sense says, Konnichiwa, brother. Do you use a VPN for YouTube and Amazon? After watching Pop Brothers episode on the Roundtable, I started feeling maybe I should tighten up or ship up, and maybe I'm being overly stoned and paranoid. Depending on where you are, I'm gonna just hazard a guess to say that you may be somewhere where paranoia is warranted. Paranoia is not a bad thing. VPN security is a good thing. I'm not a VPN expert, and I would be very interested in doing a live stream with someone that's very well spoken and well versed in VPN and disguising your IP. So, hit me up publicly or privately on Instagram if you're a VPN expert guy. I don't know, Loki might be, but I want to do a here, if you're dumb, here's how you protect yourself. So I just want to get that in there.
Yeah, I definitely would tune into that one.
Cool. I know Lieutenant Commander Dudefella of the DGC did a article on dudegrows.com, but the spelling of Lieutenant Commander Dudefella is weird, so I don't know how to freaking find it, and I've tried 3 times. So I don't know. We'll get Malik to link that up for us along next week or something. We can talk about it.
You were saying that paranoia is a good thing. I don't use a computer without a VPN. I just don't. I'm not a VPN expert, but I know how to use one. And I think that if you can and you feel like it's something you need, you should use it. Be as private as possible.
What product do you use, and how much does it cost? And then we'll kick it over to Harris after.
So to keep it as private as possible, I use a VPN that accepts payment like Bitcoin. So I use IPVanish. I use several different VPNs, but I use VPNs that accept Bitcoin payment so that I don't have to use my own credit card or,
And does it work? It
defeats the purpose.
Does it work like the end of the movie GoldenEye, where they're trying to find the GoldenEye satellite, and it's like he's in Spain, now he's in Cuba?
No, it doesn't. I mean, it all depends on how sophisticated you get it. I use a VPN inside of a virtual machine. Some people just use a VPN right on their computer, but then they go to the same website like Facebook on the same IP and then wonder why it's not secret anymore.
Okay, so using a VPN on a virtual machine off-site is highly recommended?
If you can, yes. But if you're going to use a VPN, don't go to your private site and then go to your public site. Okay.
I think what I want to do is I'd like to get in touch with some people that are bringing up some great suggestions in chat. We'll do a private, just hangout smoke sesh on Google this week during the week, and we'll put together a live show for that, because it's something that gets covered here and there, but why the fuck aren't people why aren't there growers? I know there's a lot of videos on YouTube. I've watched a few of them, but why aren't growers talking more about this? We're all here on the internet, and it's not just the cops and the feds. There's smart people out there. What if somebody sees oh shit, this guy's got $5,000 worth of LED shit. I'm going to go find his address. And
yeah, I saw somebody post on Instagram their location. I searched the location just being nosy, and it goes right to a home address.
What?
I know they typed in a different address because they wanted to say something different, but when you locate it, it brought me to their house.
Jeez. Yeah, you gotta be careful on Instagram. There's an option to post, if you post a picture, it'll give your location on there, and and anybody could just click that and see right where you posted it from. So
that's dangerous. Okay.
There's a
LED. Oh wait. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Harris.
I went across the border to pick up some stuff for growing. Mm-hmm. And the border went through my phone, and they found pictures of pot, and I didn't even notice, but the pictures on my phone point the location. When I looked at the location, it wasn't at the exact house; it was in the area. But it's crazy that stuff.
Geotagging is a motherfucker, man.
Yeah.
So you most cell phones like iPhones and Android phones they're gonna have that metadata in them, right, where it shows where the photo was taken. I know most of that's removed when you post it on Instagram or Facebook. Those services they remove that, but on your cell phone, if the cops get hold of your phone, they can find out.
You can turn all that off. It just
you turn off the location.
You turn it off, but the metadata is still in there. So we need to find out if there's a metadata masking application that you could fire up. like a camera app on the phone where you take your photos through that app and it deletes the metadata.
I think there's apps you can go in and manually change it.
Okay, cool. Okay, Harris, did you want to get a couple licks in on this VPN or?
Well, I was just gonna say I wouldn't be here right now if I didn't have a VPN.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Cool.
You actually, sorry, I can. I don't even have to say it if you other guys want to like get their quick questions in. I just wanted a little quip at the end. And now I can't remember what it is, so keep going.
Fucking grocery store life, man. You got to make a list. All right, go ahead, Wick.
All right, see what we got here next. So Lab Marsho asks, just Lab Mars. I'm sorry, I got Lab Mars asks, how good is the Timber Vero 29 900 watt framework with that lots of cob?
It's good. It's good. It's priced very aggressively for a fixture of that wattage. Clearly if you want to get the hacksaw out and build your own frame and go buy your wire and your connectors, you could save some money, which you can with any DIY build. But I think for the price point for a 5x5, there's not a lot of people truly catering to the 5x5 grower. Most growlets or even the modular setups are kind of tailored towards 4x4 setups or 4 foot wide links. And Gene, you've gone a little wider than 36 with your bar. You've gone up to like 42 inches to try to accommodate 5 foot spaces, or no? Like,
yeah, I guess my mic's way over here. That's not gonna work. Like originally we were on the 36-inch bar, but that was for 1400. As you start up in the current, you kind of raise the bar a little bit. 40 inches goes a lot longer at 24 inches than it does at 18. So yeah, I'm trying to accommodate that. 4.5 is what I shoot for, being no questions asked. And then if we put enough light up there, yeah, you can get to 5, no problem.
Okay.
But
in terms
when we
of
look at commercial, it's designed on commercial tables, and they're all 4 feet wide, and that's why.
Right. So when you're at home and you're not commercial, I think the timber would probably be.
How big is it? I don't know what that one is.
It's big. It's 42 inches by 42 inches. It's 900 watts. It's 13. It's either 13.
It's like $1,400 or something.
Let's call it 1,400. So you're paying $1,400 for just under 1,000 watts worth of LED. Like that's freaking what?
Yeah, it's DIY price with a little premium on the frame, like Mouse was talking about.
Sure. Yeah, you could build it for like $1.05, $1.10 a watt. They're selling it for $1.40 a watt, and every other competitively priced LED on the market's $2 a watt. Roughly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there you go.
Who's got it? Is that Wookiee's pulling it up there? Yeah.
I
like I've said, I like the Vero 29, and they did the driver pairings for you, so you don't have to worry about it. So yeah, there you go.
If I didn't build fixtures and I just wasn't concerned with any kind of UL or CL or whatever C listing, like if I didn't have to worry about inspectors and people coming through for UL certifications, I'd buy this light. I would very much buy this light, and I think anyone that does buy one of these would be very happy with its performance at any price point, let alone the $1,400 price point. I think it's fucking awesome. Cool.
All right, I gotta head out. Gotta go over mom and dad's, and it looks like Subcool's here, so maybe you want to have him jump into my spot.
Sure. Oh yeah, dude. Hell yeah. I'd love to have Subcool, and we're not doing a 5-hour thing. In fact, we're almost at. I was actually thinking about shutting it down in 7 minutes anyway. That will put us right at the 2-hour mark, and that would let me get on with my day.
Well, glad I brought that up then.
Yeah, I still have 2 Astro Chimps to harvest, and I have 30 seedlings to transplant. So actually, we're all hopping out. But you can go ahead and hop out early.
All right,
Dan.
dude. Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure, man.
Cool, man.
Thanks for everybody in chat. Thanks for all the love. I'll catch you guys later.
Later, man. All right, so yeah, I guess this is officially the last call because Gene, you said you needed to go, but then you stayed the whole time. So let's put everyone out of their misery, and let's do last call. What else you got, Wookie?
I'm going to do last dab, actually.
And I would like to have Subcool in here when it's a topic that we could all contribute a little bit more equally, you know, instead of him just getting ear fucked with HLG 320 CXB 90 milliamp, you know. Anyway, okay. Shout out, Subcool. Love you, brother.
All right. G Root is asking. He's saying I'm setting up a 4x4 tent, 7-foot ceilings. He has the 240 HLGs at 1400 milliamps. He wants to run 15 cobs on 3 42-inch bars with 5 cobs on each for a total of 750 watts. Is this going to be too much or too closely spaced together?
Did he say 240? HLG 240 is the driver. What current?
1400 milliamps.
Yeah, I mean that's basically 3 PLC bars, except for a little lower current and 5 cobs before.
Yeah, more efficient. Yeah.
And I believe I saw another comment
you
from
can
him.
say it, it's fact. It's okay.
I'd like to. I would really like to know Gene's thoughts because people ask. They come to me. They're like, like I don't work for PLC, but like a lot of times people come to me and they're like, so what should I do? Should I buy 2 PLC or 3? I'm like, don't you think that'd be a better question for Gene? But you know, I understand they want like an unbiased, or I mean, we're friends, Gene, but you know, semi-unbiased.
Yeah,
So what do you tell customers that want to light a 4x4 space and they want to buy 2 bars or 3 bars? Clearly 3 is better for your pocketbook and the company.
Yeah, it's very interesting. What I ask them is, where are you growing? What is your space? You know, just like you talked about earlier, a 4x4 space to me, that means that's 48 by 48 of pure canopy, no dehues, no extra space. So I want to give them what exactly they're doing, what their expectations are, because essentially 2 bars is going to be really similar to 1,000 watt single-ended. Maybe a brand new bulb might eke it out a little bit here and there. It's going to be teeter-totter on that. Once you throw that 3rd bar in there, it brings it up to that DE level where you can start to really compete and totally replace these double-ended situations. So to me, it's if you just want a 1-for-1 replacement, 2 bars, it'll do it. But I always recommend 3 if you can do it. The other issue is because they're so modular, they're really designed for a full facility, and exactly so that kind of between 2 and 3 is hard to say. But when we're talking about a 4x8 between 5 and 6, I usually will always recommend 5 versus so it's kind of like when you don't have that helping light and the bigger area, it gets a little different. So it's very situational based. But if you're on the edge and you're like, I don't know if 2 is enough, it's probably not enough. You're going to be that guy who would love to run a DE in the space if he could and pump more out of there. So be where I'd at.
The takeaway is 2 bars for a 4x4. I don't even want to use the term you can get away with because it's more than adequate. And if we were to run the calculations based on photon output, we'll perform like a 920 watt HPS, right? Like just shy of the Thowie. But if you can afford it, 3 bars is going to blast it. In the same way that people buy SEs versus Gavitas. It's the same thing, right?
And that's why I say over the 4x8, the 5 bars basically gives you 600 watts per tray, and you're really at that perfect PPFD comparison there, and you pretty much get the 1-for-1 switch at 5 bars over a 4x8. But I can't I don't have any bars split in half for your 4x4s, so that's the little bit of the issue for the very, very small guy. You got to say, do I want to go big or do I want to just sit where I'm already at?
You can't please all the growers all the time. All the grow spaces all the time, I should say.
But the new light, I'm trying to get you guys a bigger single 500 to 600 watt panel at a good price. So cool. Just wait, it's coming.
Well, what else we got?
I got an opinion on that question about the lights.
Cool.
It's all about your pocketbook, so it's better to have more than you need than less than you want. So I would go with the 3. And if you don't need the 3rd one, dim it down or move it over because you'll just get more efficient.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll hire you, Loki. We just need to tell everyone that one. The dimmers are key. You want 600 watts a tray, and we're offering you 750. Dim it down for a time being until you can, add another row of plants there and space them out, and you got the light you need on tap.
Absolutely.
Each of my 4x4s, I have 900 watts, but I don't run them at that.
And I've gravitated more towards having a little more than you need. Technically, maybe you lose a little driver efficiency by having them dimmed, but like, you know,
I haven't seen it.
you haven't seen it?
I haven't seen it. The drivers, some of the drivers are dead on spec sheet, and some of them are a little lower than you'd expect. Like the 185s consistently ran a couple points lower. They were only at like the 90, 91% when they should have been up in the 93s. It's not much, but like that little bit on the dimming side, once you look at that actual graph, a lot of them are if you're, as long as you're over 80%, they're pretty much over 90% efficient the whole time.
My next build, I'm going to integrate the built-in kilowatt like I put into Wookiee's build, and I'm going to integrate DC amperage and voltage meters so that I can monitor, you know, the yield ratio across the driver, right? The driver efficiency, AC in and DC out, and I can monitor that over a range of dimming. I tried with Wookiee Cushes, but those little black boxes under your dimming knobs, those things require 50 milliamps, and the dimming lead of a Meanwell puts out 60 microamps, right, Gene? Like, so it's like no current. They wouldn't even light up. So I'll talk to you about that later, Wookie. So I'm gonna cut it there. That's just it. Hard 2 hours. You know, if we could shit, man, we could go all day with this, but we'll keep you that carrot on a stick, that LED carrot on a stick, keep you coming back to my channel, coming back to Gene's channel. So first I'd like to run through, Anthony, do you have anything to promote? Are you on social media at all, or Instagram or anything like that? No, but you're
not yet. I was planning on maybe doing something once I put up building my light and building a room, but
okay.
I'm just new to this. I'm on my second grow now, so my first one wasn't that good, and you know, I don't know. I just soon.
Cool, very cool. Well, when you get to that point, just hit me up somewhere and remind me. Hey,
I appreciate it.
And I'll give you a shout out. But thanks for coming on, brother. Really appreciate it. Hope we helped you.
Thank you.
Mr. Harris, I'm super jealous of your RE20 over there. Your microphone?
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, sounds great, man. You got anything to pimp?
I'm not in the position right now where I could be on social media. I will say I remembered my question, but it's gonna take a lot longer than the last 2 minutes of this stream. So would you mind if I came and hang out with you guys again later?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely, man.
Awesome.
What I'll have you do is, oh, look, he drops that. Look, he's like, Bruce. Yeah. What do you have a handle on YouTube or something, or?
Yeah, it's the toy maker.
The toy maker. Okay. I'll write that down right now. And the next one we do that's like open form like this, that's not a tech talk. I'll definitely have you come back, man.
Thanks, dude.
I really appreciate you coming, and I like your vibe.
Oh, and one thing I will plug, something about exotic genetics. You might know this. Seeds Here Now just started their March Madness sale, and one of the specials is if you buy any pack of exotic genetic seeds, you get a free 5-pack of a never will be released LRB 40, like LRB 80. It's letters and numbers, but you get a free 5-pack of it of an unknown strain, and if you grow it out and you send them pictures and you guess the cross correctly, they'll send you a free pack of the cube.
Oh, badass, dude. Exotic is top notch.
Good plug there, yeah.
So I'm saying I was hoping, I've been waiting for the March Madness sale for a while, hoping that Exotic would have something cool, and they kind of went past my expectations, because this is great. So I'm
usually
hoping
have to buy 3 packs to get a freebie from Exotic, right?
Yeah, and especially since it's something, I don't know, you just get to feel like you're growing something unique.
Special snowflake.
Exactly.
Badass. Mr. Loki, I know you didn't get on the mic that much, but I appreciate you coming nonetheless.
Yeah, I was just here to listen. You guys had a lot of information to give. I was trying to make a YouTube video since yesterday. Hopefully today I'll have my first video up.
Badass, dude. Well, not the best time, because you could totally pimp it out right now. Do you have the channel started? Maybe we could.
Nothing.
Okay. Look for this hip ass builder guy with the hammer, a bag of weed, fucking earring, diamond earring, and a blunt with a backwards cap. You look for that icon and you see it, you hit that red button ASAP. And I'll pimp it out. When,
It'll be on this Google name. So
okay, Loki Grow, LOKI space GRO.
Loki Grower is the email. Loki.grower@gmail.com.
Dope. Very cool. Mr. Green Jeans, thanks for coming in and saving my ass when I was trying to divide fractions. Just spaced on that one there, guys. So thanks for helping me. You always kind of help me in the chat when I'm like wrong.
It's easier to be in the chat and just kind of like I was soldering and doing some stuff, so it was easy to just kind of like throw a couple words in here or there. But yeah, dude, thanks for having me on. Let me chime in. It's always fun to talk with everyone.
Very cool, man. Very cool. Appreciate it. And then what's that website again where people can check out if they don't want to fuck around with soldering and screwing stuff together?
Yeah, I know we're all about the DIY, but check out pacificlightconcepts.com. I got a few lights for most needs up there, and you guys know how it is for me. We're always going to be using top components, and I'll try to always help you guys out here.
Is that the kind of website we're going to want to bookmark for some potential new things coming out this summer? Or
Yeah, definitely. Before your summer runs, check it out. Follow us on Instagram. Instagram for me it's the best way to get whether it's Green Jeans at Green Jeans Garden or at Pacific Light Concepts. That's where you're going to find the freshest information as far as what we're doing with lights, and as well as my garden and anything LED that's going on non-Pacific Light Concepts as well.
Hey, Gene, I'm a big fan. I want to buy 3 lights. Could you help me out a little bit with the discount? Where's the best place for those kind of inquiries?
Of course, guys. You guys are followers. Email PLC and just say, hey, I'm one of your followers, been following for a while. If you can drop the screen name, it always helps because I love to check you guys out and give it a follow back if I can. Or if you just, you're just someone who watches from a screen name or whatever. We always like to hook you up. And, the MSRP or what's quoted online, you go to any company. Very rarely do you always pay the MSRP. And that's the same with us. And I'm always going to give you guys a deal, whether it's one light, at a good price, or once you guys start picking up a bunch, always going to try to hook it up. So nothing set in stone, but just email and ask. Again,
That's pretty standard on the higher end. You look at a Mayor, you look at Nextlight, you look at Fluent, you look at umpteen different people, Spectrum King, and you've got to put a price out there, but if you just contact them, you can usually get a better deal.
Yeah, exactly. And there's some of them on listed on the site, so you kind of have an idea of some of the price breaks you get, but usually I always throw you $50 to $100 back for sure.
Dope. And my main producer, Mr. Wookie Kush, is muted right now, so he's not really doing that great of a job.
Oh, sorry. I right at the end here, and then my internet just takes a shit. I had to go and plug it back in. Sorry about that.
I want to thank you very much for helping kind of co-produce or produce the show. Couldn't have done it without you. I really appreciate it. And I like you. I think you're a cool guy. It seems like you're being groomed or something. You're here on my stream. You might be growing some more ocean grown stuff. So is there a lot of pressure to do a good job and to make better videos and keep up in your game, or what?
You know what? That's the way I like it, though, man. There is, and that's half the reason that I wanted to jump on YouTube is because it kind of puts you in that spot, and I feel like I work better under pressure, and keeps you on your A game when you're in the garden and stuff. Maybe keeps you being lazy. So that's the way I like it, and yeah, I'm gonna keep doing it.
Wookie, it's creepy how you look like Dago right now, though.
Totally, dude. You just need the Oakleys in that hat.
Word.
Yeah, Wookie, I like your free agent sort of view. You're over, hanging out with Grandmaster Level, who started streaming now. He just popped into chat. Shout out to Grandmaster Level. It appears that he may be streaming quite frequently, which is great for guys like me that, are so fucking bored with TV and commercials that I just want to hang out with my friends, So it looks like you're hanging out, over there. You're hanging out with Subcool. You're hanging out with Trichome Chasers. You're hanging out over here. Just don't sign any contracts, bro. We like you. We like to see you moving around.
No, word. I like, I like hanging out with everybody. Everybody's a bunch of different good streams going on, and I'll be on the Trichome Chasers tonight. That's kind of my home base. But I'm everywhere. Where can we? What's the name of the channel? Is it just Trichome Chasers, or? It's Trichome Chasers TV on YouTube. We'll be streaming at 8 p.m. Pacific time, 11 p.m. Eastern tonight. It's our main grow stream. Very cool. And it's you guys just some friends hanging out. It could be anything from no-till Korean natural farming to LED talk, anything, right? Word, yeah, we go all over the place. I think actually we're gonna have a couple guests on tonight. I don't know. I'm sure everybody knows Vader OG. He might be stopping by. Of course, Grandmaster Level will be there. Also, one guy that I want to shout out. I kind of reached out to him and he and asked him if he'd be interested in coming on some streams and stuff like that. That I don't hear a lot about, but he has like 70,000 subscribers on YouTube, and his name is Callie Green. And, yeah, Callie Green might be popping on for a little bit tonight, and he's somebody that I've been watching for a really long time, and he has great content on YouTube. So check out Callie Green and pop into the Trichome Chaser stream tonight to possibly hear him pop in for a little bit.
Absolutely, definitely worth checking in.
His medical cannabis video was the first video I'd ever watched on YouTube about it when I was looking up how to figure it out, how to do everything.
Yeah, man, he's huge on YouTube, and he's just not really, I just don't really hear him talked about a lot in the community and stuff like that. So I kind of reached out to him, and it sounds like he's going to be joining us.
Very cool, man. We also got to shout out the myth, the man, the legend, Mr. Subcool. He'll be streaming tonight. And, it's going to get to the point where there are people streaming, and there's going to be people streaming at the same time. And, and I think probably within the next 6 months to a year, you're going to fire up your phone, hit your little sub button, and there's going to be 4 or 5 different live streams. Grandmaster Level is going to be going. Joshua Steenley's going to be going. Chasers are going to be going. Subcool is going to be going. And, hey, I'll pop in here. We'll hang out 20 minutes. Okay, now they're talking about some fucking bullshit I'm not interested in. Okay, let's pop to Subcool. Okay, now Subcool's telling that Daytona story again, so let me pop over here. That's how it's going to be, dude. You don't need the flipper anymore. You're boom, 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 different streams. So
I love it, man. I love it. It's I'm like you, man. Every time I pull up my phone and pop that subscribe button, I look, oh, who's live? And I'm like, nobody's live. What am I going to do for the next 2 hours?
It sucks. Yeah. So I think we will all, Grandmaster Level, Joshua Steensland, me, Gene, Roundtable, Subcool, like as long as we all just stay friendly and stay united, we'll all grow together, and be this foundation of the people that really kind of like started the GrowTube stream movement, GrowTube as a general sense of video makers that make stuff about cannabis. So, fans out there in the chat, show the love everywhere, even if you're just stopping in, and united we stand, bros. Loki?
Absolutely.
I get so sad when there's no live. I love you, all you guys, everybody. It's all great.
Well, cheers. Well, any final thoughts, Gene? You look like you.
No, dude, that money. That's exactly it. Love to see all the live. I can't wait. We need to start taking over the weeknights is the next thing, because I get a little bored on, say Tuesday, Wednesday night, and that's going to be the next step. We'll have live streams every night.
Absolutely. And check your IG as well, because those live streams can be very fun and educational. So
Envy.
I feel like I just ended a 1990s rap CD with a 12-minute outro. So there's your 12-minute outro, people. I'm Growmouse for Green Gene, Anthony Harris, Loki, Dirtman Dan, and Wookie. We wish you a dank-ass weekend, and we'll see you next time.